Hey guys, Cliff Gray here with Flat Tops Wilderness Guides and True Hunts. Today I'm going to go over packing food for a backpack hunt. And this is going to apply to 2 or 3 day hunt all the way up to 10 to 12 day hunt. For drop camp hunters and base camp hunters, you might get some good information from kind of the mid part of this discussion, like the snack / lunch part. That's going to apply to those hunts. Basically, what I would take is like a day snack. And how I would organize that. That'll apply to you. But I'll do a full video on more of that base camp food prep, and that'll come out later on. This is really going to focus on the backpack hunts, okay? All right, guys, so you're going to see a bunch of my personal preferences in terms of the foods that I pack on my backpack hunts. I think that will give you some suggestions, but I think what's most important for you to take away from this are the overarching themes of one, and that's just organization, all right? Two, kind of the dietary composition that I focus on. And for me, that's basically of the calories that I take on a backpack hunt, 40% of them are gonna be fat, 40% of them are gonna be protein, about 20% of them are gonna be carbs, sugars, that sort of thing, okay? So that's kind of the breakdown that works for me on that and keeps my energy level up, keeps me sleeping well, and those sort of things that are really important to me on a hunt. That's the composition of my diet that works. The other thing is in terms of weight and calories versus weight, is I use that rule of thumb, like 100 calories to 110 calories per ounce, okay? You want to kind of nail that and make sure you're right in there with foods, okay? So nothing really heavy, but if you're focusing on fat, like a high fat kind of diet, you'll find that it's not that hard to get there, okay? But anyway, shoot for that 1 to 120 calories per ounce and you'll be good to go. I personally shoot for around 3,000 to 3,200 calories a day on a backpack hunt. And I can tell you from experience that that's generally not going to be enough, all right? Even if you eat all the food. And for me personally, and I notice this with almost everybody, when they're on a backpack hunt, you're hunting really hard, you've got other things go on, eating is not always top priority. So you'll find that one of the tricks on these hunts is to try to eat as much as possible and go through like your daily rations. And you'll see that kind of correlates to what the organization part of this, and you'll see how I approach it. If you don't do that, if you don't consciously think about it, you're going to underconsume calories, okay? Even if you consume 3,000 to 3,200 calories, you're probably going to be dropping weight. Like for me, I get pretty close. I always pack 3,000, 3,100 calories per day. I probably average eating, 2,850 of that. I tend to have a little bit extra each day. But at 2,850 for me, if I do 4 to 5 backpack hunts in a row, I'm still going to lose, 15 to 20% of my body weight. And I'm kind of a skinny little guy anyway, so it's pretty substantial. So just keep that in mind. You can't really eat enough, all right? So you've got to be making the conscious choice whenever you're glassing, whenever you've got any downtime of any sort of kind. Try to just be nibbling on stuff. The other big theme, guys, is you've got to take stuff you're going to eat, okay? If the stuff that I show you is not appetizing to you, sub in something else, okay? That's really important, all right? And the reality is, for me, I consider myself like an anal person when it comes to diet at home, but you're going to see in my daily food that I take on a backpack hunt, there's a bunch of food in it that wouldn't be good for you by any stretch of the imagination, including candy bars, okay? I take that because I like to eat it, and when it's in there, I'll consume it because I like to eat it. So make sure you take that into account. Don't just go off of somebody's list out there, all right? You've got to enjoy the food that you're going to take with you. All right, so first thing, just on an organization perspective, this right here is like my daily rations, okay, for a backpack hunt, all right? So if it's a 9-day hunt, I'll have 9 of these. If it's a 6-day hunt, I'll have 6 of them, all right? And then I might have depending on the logistics of going in, like if I'm flying in somewhere or whatever, and I just have to have dinner for that night, of course I compensate for that, okay? But anyways, I have it in a modular form, and this is my day setup, okay? On the outside, I have a 2.5 gallon Ziploc bag, And then in the inside, what you're gonna see is I have, in a smaller Ziploc bag, I have my breakfast. All right. In another Ziploc bag, I have my lunch/snacks. For me on a backpack hunt, it's the same thing. It's not like I'm having a formal type of lunch, okay? But I have that in a separate bag, okay? And then loose in my large bag, I have my dinner, okay? And so the idea here in terms of this modular system, in terms of food, is what I do the night before I go to bed in my backpack tent, I set out my breakfast for the next day, okay? I set it right next to my jet boil so it's ready to go in the morning, okay? And then I also take out my lunch and my snacks for the next day, and that goes into my pack that I'm gonna take with me, okay? And then this, my next day's dinner, stays in the tent, okay? Zip bagged up, or zip locked up, all right? So let's start with the breakfast. My breakfast in the morning is pretty simple, okay? So I have 2 coffees, just these little instant coffees, all right? I have a little honey packet that I put in my coffee or my oatmeal, either one. I use this breakfast essentials. It's like an instant breakfast mix. And what I do when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is I make sure the night before, I also make sure that my water bottle is full for the day, my Nalgene. And so the first thing I do in the morning is I break open this breakfast essentials packet and I pour it into that Nalgene bottle, okay? And then I have 2 of these instant oatmeal packets, all right? And that's what I eat for breakfast. Generally what's gonna happen is I cook my coffee, all right? I boil up my water and pour my coffee first. And then you know, a jet boil or any of your small backpack stoves are gonna get that water boiling, so it's gonna be super hot. So I do that first. I put my coffee in a separate cup, usually a titanium single wall cup, and I pour these in there and get that going. And then while that's kind of cooling down where I can drink it, I go ahead and start the water for my oatmeal, okay? So that's my breakfast setup. The other thing that I always pack in here with my breakfast is one of these little disposable toothbrushes, okay? I can use that in the morning after I've had my breakfast, brush really well, and I get that out of the way, all right? So that's the breakfast. And you guys can see as I go through this, it seems really anal, but my process in the morning and at night, because I'm organized in terms of food, is very simple, okay? If you haven't done a lot of backpack hunts, one thing that you're gonna quickly realize is there's not a lot of downtime, okay? The rougher the hunt is, you know, the more remote and the more rugged terrain, you know, species that are less dense, etc. What's gonna happen is you're gonna hunt hard all day, and the last thing you wanna do at night is organize your food for the next day or whatever. And the next morning, you wanna get out and start hunting at those prime hours. You don't wanna be organizing your food, okay? So that's why I'm so anal about it. All right, so snacks and lunch. So I sit this in somewhere in my pack, not down in the main compartment, somewhere on the outside where I can get to it during the day. All right, so just in terms of like just kind of grazing food, I usually have a mix of nuts and then like a dried fruit, okay? So usually it's pistachios, macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts, I really like them, but I find that I can't only eat those. So I usually mix in some pistachios and then some sort of dried fruit. Dried mango is awesome. Dates are probably my favorite. Craisins are good. Okay, so I make a mix with that. And then I'll have 2 or 3 kind of little like snack bar type of items. These are fig bars, okay? And then these little biscuits. These are the Nature Valley biscuits. Those are great options for you. The other option that I don't have here, which is honestly my go-to in terms of this, is 2 Stinger waffles, okay? The things taste really good, and they're a great source of calories. The one negative, and the reason I don't have them here, is that they don't last a long time in storage, okay? So I buy them new every year, and it's because they don't use preservatives and those sort of things, so they're probably a lot healthier for you. But I don't keep them year to year or even month to month. They get hard. And the other thing is in your pack, they will crush, okay? So a lot of times if you set this stuff on the outside, you won't have that problem. But they're one of my favorite things instead of these bars, but the bars will work perfect too. So 2 or 3 of those. I always carry a candy bar. Snickers, M&Ms, or Mounds are my go-to. I carry a Pro Bar. And if anything is my formal lunch, this would be my formal lunch. There's lots of different kinds. I particularly like this super berry and greens flavor, but there's a lot of different versions of it. I carry a goo, so you can get these at running stores, whatever. Order them online, and make sure. Well, it depends. If you're a caffeine freak like myself, make sure you get the ones that have caffeine in them. And to me, this is like my midday afternoon coffee. Okay, so I make sure that's always in there. A little energy boost. A caffeine and carb energy boost is basically what it is. Okay, and then I carry a little packet of this is basically just a little protein bag. Okay, so I like there's a couple different kinds of jerkies and meats that I like. These Duke original recipe little pork sticks. Okay, high fat content, minimal amount of preservatives, that sort of thing. And then I like this Golden Island pork jerky. Both of those are available at Costco. You can get them in bulk and you can make these little baggies. You can always go with like a Jack Link's type of jerky, your homemade jerky or whatever. I find that with like these more like gas station brands of jerky, I'm never as happy with them. If you're eating them day over day, I don't know if it's, I don't have any science to back this up. I don't know if it's because they have more preservatives or whatever, but I lose my appetite for them, and they tend to make me kind of a little lethargic if all I'm eating is that type of jerky. So I try to go with these more simple ingredient ones like the Golden Island and the Duke pork sticks. But I'll always always mix in like some of my own deer jerky or something like that I have too, so that works. So I have a little bag of that. And then I carry one of these little squeeze packets of ghee, and generally I'll either put this on the waffles I bring or the bars I bring, or I'll put it on the dates. And the dates is my preference. I just squirt it into the date and eat it. And this ghee, it'll get a little hard on you, but it's really the only way to have access to that, this level of fat is in these little packets. So I like it, and they're pricey, guys. I'm not going to deny it, but it's a really good source of calories and a super good ratio of weight to calories. Okay, so I have one of those in there. So that's my lunch snack. So in terms of the nuts and stuff you can pick through, I like the Blue Diamond bulk bags are good. These bulk pistachio bags you can get from Costco are a good source of that. And then I order the macadamia nuts in bulk, okay, from Amazon. And then also like your mango, craisins, dates. Costco is also a really good source of that stuff. All right, guys. So when I'm back at camp, I've already got my dinner set up in the bag that I left in the tent, but outside of my all my other meals, right? Those are tied away in their own bags. So I eat 1, 2. These are like usually 2 serving sizes or 2.5 serving sizes from Mountain Houses. Go out and try a few different ones so you make sure that you've got the ones in your pack that you're gonna eat. Okay, I for sure have preference for certain meals that Mountain House makes. They got a big assortment of them. I mean, generally most of them are pretty damn good. Okay, so I have one of those with dinner, and then usually what I'll have with me is this is actually bone broth, and this is in a K-cup. Okay, so it's like like that you put in a Keurig coffee machine. And you can also get these in little, just like your normal little single serve powder containers. The thing is I find that they pack better in these little K cups, as long as you don't put a ton of pressure on them where they're gonna pop. But in those little, in the tubes that are similar to the single serve coffees, so you can get the bone broth in like a single serve coffee thing But for whatever reason, if there's humidity in the environment, a lot of that bone broth will actually kind of stick inside the packaging. So I find that it's better off, I'm better off if I use these little K-cups. And it's the same deal. I just use my knife and cut it open and pour it in, okay? So I use that. I'll either drink it in my little cup as like just a warm drink, or I'll add it to my Mountain House for some extra calories, okay? So that's some bone broth. This Lano Life makes it. I've tried other ones, but that one I prefer by taste by a lot, okay? The other thing that I carry, and I usually put this in one of every 2 meals, okay? So if it's a 6-day trip, I'll have 3 of these, all right? And I like smoked oysters, and I like them when they're packed in olive oil. I find that they're just more appetizing on the trail. So this one is the only variability, right? I'm pretty boring. Like, I stick to what I've got in my pack, what I just showed you, and how I go through the day and eat it. This one, sometimes I'll eat it right when I get back home in camp, if it's not already dark and that sort of thing. I don't have other things I got to jump on before I eat dinner. I'll eat it as kind of like a pre-dinner snack, all right? Sometimes, if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of glassing, like mid-morning, I'll throw this in my pack with my lunch/snack, okay? And I'll have it during the day on the trail, okay? But I usually don't eat one every day, like I said, every other day. And because you're already bearing the weight of this item, I try to consume the oil in it too, all right? So I'll add that. I could add it to Mountain House. I can eat it some other way, or just kind of slurp it up with kind of the oysters or whatever, but I try to consume that oil. It's not always the easiest thing to do or the most appetizing thing to do, but it's extra calories, okay? So those are good. Some guys who don't like smoked oysters, you can try sardines, all right? You can try anchovies. I think most people that I know, they prefer if they're packed in olive oil, and I think that's partly the oil is more appetizing, but I also think that the manufacturers of these and the providers of these, the ones that pack them in olive oil, they tend to have a higher quality product overall, but it's also reflected in the price, okay? These are by far my favorite. These are Crown & Prince smoked oysters in olive oil, okay? And the last thing I have in my bag for the day is another little disposable toothbrush. And I didn't mention it before, guys, but this already has the toothpaste and stuff on it. It has a little pick, a little pick for your teeth or whatever. So that's really handy, all right? All right, guys, just for your own reference, what I showed you in my daily packet there is gonna be around 3,250 calories, and it's gonna weigh about 1.9 pounds, okay? On the days that I don't have oysters, okay, so every other day, as I mentioned, it's gonna run right around 3,100 calories, and it's gonna be around, right around 1.8 pounds per day, okay? Okay, and then generally, what I'll do is like a cleanup measure in camp. After what I'll do is I take everything out of my pack. I take out my snack bag and all that now is going to be 90% garbage. I take all my other garbage from dinner and I put it back in here, okay? And that way it can be either packed out or it can be burnt, all right? If you do burn these Mountain House dehydrated meals, just make sure, as a courtesy to everybody else using the wilderness, that after your fire's all put out, just make sure you go back and get the foil from that packaging out of there, okay? But this big bag makes it a real tidy way to pack your trash. Not only keep everything organized when you're doing this all, but it helps you pack your trash in, okay? All right, so that's pretty much the setup, guys. A couple things that I might bring on a longer trip, okay? So the first item is I like to have some of this Anthony's heavy cream powder. It's just a dehydrated cream powder. I, of course, don't bring in a pack like this. Just in a small Ziploc bag, I'll just put a little bit. I add that to my coffee sometimes. I add it to my instant breakfast. If I'm drinking the bone broth separate as a nighttime kind of warm-up drink, I'll add a little bit of that cream powder even, okay? But usually it's the morning stuff, right? Oatmeal, a little bit in my coffee, those items. It's just a way to add calories, in a way that's going to be appetizing to most people. So take a little bag of that, and then I always plan for one extra meal, okay? So just if travel logistics get messed up, or for whatever reason you need to stay in for an extra meal. First, like I said, usually I've got 100 to 200 calories worth of food left from each big packet as I go through the trip. So I'll have that if I have to stay for an extra night. But the other thing I usually pack is just 1 or 2 of these top ramens. And it sounds kind of ridiculous. It for sure doesn't comply with the ratio of fat and carbs that I gave you early on. But they're very appetizing to me, okay? So if I have to stay another night, it's great to have a warm meal. But the other thing, if I get a little sick or a little off or lose my appetite completely, I can almost always eat this stuff, okay? And eating something in the mountains on a backpack trip is a lot better than eating nothing regardless of what it is, okay? So I bring that as a little extra item. The other thing that I do is on these instant coffees, like I showed you, I pack a couple in my breakfast for every morning, and that's done pre-hunt. I'll usually bring 3 or 4 extras just in case we're back at camp in the afternoon or whatever and I want to make some coffee or midday or whatever. I'll bring a couple of these. And I actually, just as a function of having to deal with it in the past, I actually stow a couple little single serve coffees in my backpack, my day packs even, just for those times when, maybe you fly in somewhere or you get packed into a camp and they forgot coffee, right? And they can't get it for a couple days. It's nice to have a few extra of those. All right. And then on my fuel for my my backpacking stove, what I do is these will tell you how many good boils you're gonna get out of them. So I plan out, okay, I'm gonna boil X amounts. I'm gonna do X amount of boils in the morning. For me, it's 2, coffee and oatmeal, right? And then I'm going to do X amount of boils for dinner, right? And that's either 1 or 2. It's either 1 for my bone broth and my mountain house at the same time, or it's 1 for the bone broth / warm drink, and then 1 for the mountain house. So I calculate all those boils up for the week, and then I basically multiply them by 1.3, right? So 1 1/3, and then I make sure that I have enough fuel to do that many boils. So I'm not on the edge, but I find that guys generally carry way too much gas with them, way too much isobutane for backpack stoves. So keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind with these is it's good to know how much you need on any trip that you're gonna fly in an airplane, right? You don't wanna just fly there, and of course you can't bring this because they won't let you bring it on the airplane, and then go into a store and just think, oh, I need 2 or 3 or 4. No, you need to know exactly how many cartridges you have so you're not carrying a bunch of extra. All right, guys, so I hope that gave you a good overview of how I pack my food and my meals for my backpack hunts. If you have any questions on this, just shoot them over to me, and then just realize that, yeah, the snack part of this is going to be the same for kind of my camp pack-in hunts, but all the rest is going to be a whole lot different. So stay tuned for a couple videos on that subject in the next couple weeks.